I get to be 50, though. I'm just not as successful as I think I should be. And I have two goals in my life: to make enough money so I didn't have to work, and to find the woman of my dreams. I always made 200, 300 grand a year, but as materialistic as this sounds, I realized that I had to start netting $1 million a year. And I never come close to that.
His income increased 25x, 25 times, to where he was netting $5 million per year. I don't know many people in this world that net $5 million per year. And then he found the book Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure you're familiar with that one, but he realized that there was a missing half to the main secret in it.
Ultimately, I figure out the full secret and a 12-minute-a-day technique to apply it. And so I started applying it to a new business I'm starting.
All right. Welcome back, listener. Man, I have a very special guest today. Listener, this is John Mitchell, the owner, founder, chief executive of Think It, Be It. And let me give you a little backstory on John. So I met John out at a retreat, a mastermind with another client of mine, Jim Cathcart. And John told us in the group, he said, when I was a younger man, I was making low six figures and I could never crack through to the next level. And I was just always looking for how I could get ahead and honestly make more and impact more. And then he found the book Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure you're familiar with that one, but he realized that there was a missing half to the main secret in it. And since then, he studied it. He realized what that missing half of the secret was, and his income increased 25x, 25 times, to where he was netting $5 million per year. I don't know many people in this world that net $5 million per year. That's the upper echelon. Anyway, John, I'll let you tell this story. I cannot wait to dive into this. Good to see you.
Hey, thank you for having me. I think a lot of your listeners are going to find this interesting, but I dare say some of them will find it life changing. So let's dig in.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us your backstory. How did you go from where you were to realizing what is possible?
Well, it started. I started my career as a CPA, and Daniel, when I got to be about 28 or 29, I realized I didn't want to be an accountant all my life. Although it's a great background, I didn't want to do that all my life. And so at 30, I became an entrepreneur. And in my 30s and 40s, I was in like 7 different businesses. And so I get to be 50, though, and I'm just not as successful as I think I should be. And I have two goals in my life: to make enough money so I didn't have to work, and to find the woman of my dreams. Well, on the money, I always did pretty well. I always made 200, 300 grand a year. But as materialistic as this sounds, I realized that I had to start netting $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And I never come close to that. And then on the girl at 50, I'd never been married, although I did a lot of interviewing. Um, well, I call it interviewing. My friends called it begging, which is probably closer to the truth. But so at 50, I'm like, well, how am I going to change things? And I don't know, probably 3 months after I turned 50, a pearl of wisdom comes to me. Find the top book in the world on success and apply that book literally word for word to my life. So I remember jumping out of bed and doing the research. And Daniel, I discovered something really surprising: that there's one book that's been read by 150 million people. It's the top book of the world on success by a factor of 10. And that book is Think and Grow Rich. As you well know, I'm sure you've read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, this is really setting up. I can't believe there's one book above all others on success. And so I make a beeline to the bookstore. I buy the book, read the book. And then, Daniel, I discover the problem. The book says there's a secret for success, but the author only gives us half of the secret. It's on the reader to figure out the other half. And so I'm bummed out and I mope around for probably 3 weeks. And one day I just get up and go, John, man up, figure out the damn secret. And so I immersed myself in the book and probably read it, I don't know, 20 times over a 2 or 3 month period of time. And so ultimately, I figure out the full secret and a 12-minute a day technique to apply it.
Hmm.
And so I started applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage field. And Daniel, quickly my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to where more or less 4 years later, I'm blessed to be making 25 times the 200 to 300 grand a year I was making the prior 20 years. And of course, I felt, tremendously blessed. But what was particularly cool was I could see exactly why it was happening.
Hmm.
I was just playing the game of life at a higher level. I could do things I could never do before. I had a level of control over my life I'd never experienced before. And I just became fascinated that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so materially impact your success.
Yeah.
And so about 12 years ago, I sell my company. I'm like, okay, I'm going to share this with the world. And maybe a month or two after I sell my company, I meet the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas. And I tell him my story, and he says, hey, you got to teach this at the University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together? And that led him, he introduced me to the athletic director here at the University of
Hmm.
Texas.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I want to learn this 12-minute a day technique. And that led to becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches here. And so today I teach a class called Advanced Leadership of Self,
Hmm.
the science of leveraging yourself. And I teach that to students, and to adults, I teach my methodology through my book and through licensing my methodology to coaches. So that's essentially what I do.
Man, that was a lot of expertise packed into just a few minutes there. I definitely want to unpack portions of that. So my mind jumps to your 12-minute per day exercise. I'm curious, what did the experimentation process look like leading up to you? Nothing's ever perfected per se, but where you felt confident in it. What kind of trial and error did you go through? I'm curious what led you to discovering it.
Well, I let's look at this from like a 30,000 foot view.
Okay.
I would say this to your audience: how do you create success in your life? Just
Mm,
think about that question. How do you create success in your life? And Daniel, when I'm one on one with somebody, I'll ask them that question, and they'll stumble around for the answer because they've never really been asked that question.
yeah.
And then the more pertinent question is, well, how's that working for you in terms of creating an exceptional life?
Yeah.
Well, not that well. And what I see is that most people are just winging life. They don't really have a way of doing life.
Yeah.
Now that was me before I was 50. So I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm just saying that my observation is that most people simply are winging life. And the problem with that is you tend to recreate the past.
Mm,
And and the other problem, and this is sort of a fundamental problem of being human, is that we are all innately wired for survival, which causes us to be fear-based and reactive. That's how we're naturally wired to be fear-based and reactive. Well, that was great 50,000 years ago, but it's exactly the opposite of how we need to be if we want to be productive, creative, and happy. And so, I don't know. You buy that most people are just winging life?
yeah, I absolutely do. And there are days and there are weeks when I do that as well. And I
Right.
can feel when I'm winging it. And it's not fun. So yes, absolutely.
Well, and the thing I see is, man, life is precious. My
Yeah.
life is precious. Your life is precious. The everybody's life that is listening to this is precious. And and I feel so blessed that I have something that is truly life changing. And I just want to make people's path easier than mine was. I mean, you know, and there's no limit to what I'll do to help people that are doing my methodology. But, and,
Mhm.
you know, maybe it's a good time to sort of explain the secret and really get into the crux of this. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm very curious over here to get a recap
Okay.
of it.
Well, I'll tell you sort of how I discovered the secret and what the secret is, and that'll sort of put it in context to tell it in terms of the story. So I'm 50 years old, and there's a little more going on in my life than just feeling the scarcity of time. My mom was dying of pancreatic cancer.
Mm,
And so every day after work, I would go see her in the hospital. I'd love on her, I'd hold her hand, and then I would go in the cold, dark parking lot and cry my eyes out for 45 minutes to an hour. And this is going on for like 6 or 8 weeks. Every night, this gut wrenching, crying my eyes out for 45 minutes to an hour. And Daniel, of course, I'm feeling the impending loss of my mom,
yeah,
sure. But I mean, this was so gut wrenching every night. I'd never experienced that type of pain.
yeah.
And and so it's night after night. And what I started to realize, although let me say I didn't realize this at the time. In reflection, I realized it. But I just felt like I was letting my mom down with my life because she and my dad gave me all the advantages. They sent me to Jesuit high school in Dallas when they really didn't have the money. Sent me to the University of Texas when I was 18 years old. I didn't have to pay for anything. And as my mom is leaving this world, I'm reflective about my life. And I see that for all the advantages they gave me, all I had was the average life.
Yeah.
And I hated the average life, hated the average life because I just knew I was capable of so much more. But you damn sure couldn't tell it from my results. And so what I've come to realize is that feeling of letting my mom down was like rocket fuel and caused me to go deeper than any other human on the planet ever had
Mm.
into Think and Grow Rich to figure out the alluded to secret. And so does that make sense?
Yes. That resonates a lot with me, and I'm sure the listener as well, but I'm going to help take them on the journey. Man, when you were talking about that, it makes me reflect on my own life. And
Right.
I've done a lot of self-discovery and personal therapy on this. So, yeah, I'm putting myself in your shoes right now. I very much relate.
Right, right. And so there was one night in particular, and it was. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I go and I see my mom in the hospital, and we're probably 7 weeks in now. And this night just felt different because it was snowing in Dallas, which doesn't happen very often.
Mm,
And so I go and see her and go cry my eyes out in the parking lot and finally sort of pull myself together to drive home. And I see those big snowflakes hitting the windshield and just feels different. And so I get home and I plop myself in my comfy chair and I start reading Think and Grow Rich.
mm,
Again, keep in mind this is probably the 20th time I've read it. And so this particular night, I read that your daily actions determine your success in life.
mm.
Let me say that again. Your daily actions determine your success in life, meaning that your daily actions, the cumulative effect of them, will determine your success in your career,
Yeah.
in your marriage, in your health. And I'm like, okay, I never thought of success in such simple terms, but okay, I buy that. I read essentially that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. Now, let me say that one again. 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. So as I read that, I'm like, never heard that before. That's interesting. And so, Daniel, now I'm ready to go to bed, and I wash my face and brush my teeth and put my little head on the pillow. And I cannot stop thinking about what I just read, that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And as I'm laying there, it's like a bolt of lightning hits me. And I sit up in bed and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. If my daily actions determine my success and 95% of them are unconscious, then I don't control the very thing that's determining my success.
Hmm.
And I mean, it was like sort of a surreal moment. I'm looking out in my backyard now, and the glistening snowflakes are falling, and it truly felt like a surreal moment. And I'm grasping that, I'm feeling this is significant, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then what does control my daily actions? Well, if they're unconscious, then my subconscious mind
Hmm.
controls them. My autopilot controls them. And as I'm coming to grasp with that, then I'm like, oh, I'm starting to understand this thing now, where I'm disappointed in myself. I feel like I'm underperforming, and I start to realize, well, it's not that I'm not smart enough or driven enough. I've just been operating with a false belief for like 50 friggin' years
Yeah.
that I control my daily actions. And that's the false belief I had, that I control my daily actions. And I dare say that everybody in your audience has that same false belief.
Yeah.
And so once I sort of got that, I'm like, oh, all I got to do is get rid of that false belief. And then the full secret essentially came to me. And here it is. Here's the full secret of Thinking Grow Rich. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. Let me say that again. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means, Daniel, is you step back from your life and you create immense clarity. Here's exactly the person I want to be. Here's exactly what I want to accomplish. And here's precisely how I'm going to achieve my clearly defined goals.
Yeah.
And you take that clarity and you put it on a template I created. In
Hmm.
fact, the template helps you create that clarity. And then you feed it to yourself every day. And three things then happen. The first thing you experience is this immense sense of control over your life. Well, of course you would. You're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself each day. Of course you'd feel control. Then the second thing you experience is confidence, which is directly related to the level of control you have. And you're also seeing that because you're creating such order in the mind thrives on order, that you feel completely de-stressed.
Hmm.
It just, stress goes away. You got a plan, you're executing your plan,
Yeah.
and you're feeding that plan every day. I mean, what's there to be stressed about? And then the third thing you experience is, then after 21 days, your autopilot is rewired, and then the right actions start happening automatically without thinking. And you're seeing that you're impacting your career, your marriage, and your health all at the same time.
Hmm.
And so you just see you're playing this game of life at a higher level.
Yeah.
And it only takes 12 minutes a day.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when you talked about that during Jim's summit, then I had the same emotion here as sitting here today. And John, to be transparent, life happens, life gets in the way, and from today I'm going to put it in my calendar every single day to do this in the morning. And
Right.
listener, I encourage you to do the same, and I encourage you. We'll learn more about where to find this template and get connected with John at the end of this episode. But John, it makes me think about when I was having a difficult time in the business monetarily.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was so stressed out, just so in my head about everything. And I realized that the money in this situation was at my fingertips. I just had to work on the current clients to get them up to speed. And listener, in this case, I was working with clients on a performance basis. If their business succeeded, we got a piece of the pie. And
Right.
I was so focused on external that I didn't realize that my client portfolio. Anyway, long story short, what I did was I sat down and I mapped out a plan for each client, and I suddenly became so de-stressed. I figured out, wow, wait a second. If I have a plan, I feel great. But the lack of
Yeah.
a plan. So that's baby version to what you're talking about here.
But
And that,
it's exactly the same thing.
man, yeah, yes. So I directly relate. And there's a quote that I use quite often, and I don't remember the originator, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Well, I'll give the audience an example of this, a tangible example of
Yeah.
this. So I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, I had a client of mine that lived up in Portland, and he calls me up and he says, "Hey, I'm going to bring my girlfriend down to San Antonio, which is about an hour from Austin." He says, "Why don't you get uh, Ginge and y'all meet us and have dinner in San Antonio?" And so it's around Christmas, and I get my wife Ginger, who I also met through using this methodology,
Hmm.
by the way, which was way more important than the money, as it's turned out. But so I tell her, babe, meet me at 2 o'clock at Starbucks. And so we're out and about, and I get there a little early, and I decide, and it's Christmas time, and I'm like, yeah, what the heck? I'm going to have a brownie. So I start eating the brownie, and one of the things I affirm in my life GPS template that I alluded to is that I'm aware of everything I put in my mouth.
Mm.
Well, as
Yeah.
I'm eating that brownie, I'm aware of it. I'm also aware it doesn't taste very good, but that doesn't keep me from finishing it. And so the ginger arrives. We jump in my car. We drive to San Antonio, and I tell her, "Babe, I've sort of lost my appetite. I don't feel very good." But we drive to San Antonio, and I come back that night. And Daniel, I changed one word in my template from "I'm aware of everything I put in my mouth" to "I evaluate
Mm.
everything I put in my mouth." Well, the next night we go out and have Mexican food with her son, and I ordered tacos. Well, the tacos come. They're not very good, except this time I'm evaluating everything I put in my mouth. And without even thinking, I slide those tacos away and don't have another bite.
Yeah.
All that happens automatically. And I remember laying in bed that night and I'm like, boy, if that's not a superpower where you can get yourself to take the right actions automatically, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And so I think that shows you sort of a practical example of this.
Absolutely. Well, when I think about that, people have the tendency to fixate on the sunk cost fallacy of, well, I already paid for it, so I might as well eat it.
Right,
Right.
right,
So how do you
right.
deal with that?
Well, I try not to be that unenlightened. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, you're recreating yourself with intention. That's
Yeah.
I was just telling my class this. We're about to start this phase of it. Um, we're literally taking a person's life, whether they're 20 years old or 50 years old, and recreating them with intention.
Hmm.
Because the person you are today is a confluence of a lot of factors, some of them good, some of them bad, but very little of it is intention. And so, using my methodology, we just basically start with a blank sheet of paper, and you define here's the person I want to be, here's exactly what I want to accomplish, and here's how I'm going to achieve my goals.
Yeah.
We're creating immense clarity, And when you feed that to yourself every day, after 21 days, that's who you actually become.
Yeah.
And so, you recreate your identity.
Hmm.
And
And
to show you,
yeah.
and here's the foundational science behind this. And you'll be surprised how simple this is. So here's how the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind works. Conscious mind sets your intentions and is influenced by logic. Subconscious mind is controlling your daily actions, or 95% of them, and it's only influenced by repetition. And a good
Hmm.
example is, let's say you want to lose weight. Conscious mind says the intention to lose weight based on the logic of the health benefits. But the reason people fail to lose weight is not from lack of intention, it's lack of influencing the part of their brain that's controlling their actions, and
Hmm.
specifically their exercising and their eating. And so you can see when you're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life, which includes all the right actions in each area of your life, that's the repetition the subconscious mind needs
Hmm.
to make the right actions happen automatically.
Yeah.
And the reality is, you and me before I was 50, and everybody in the audience has only tried to influence their conscious mind, the setting of the intentions, not the doing part of them.
Yeah.
And that's the fundamental science. And once you get that, and you grasp again that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious,
Yeah.
your life is sort of never the same.
Well, John, I don't normally do this, but I do want the listener to find out where they can learn more about this template, get involved with you, get connected to you, just so I think this is so important to take a pause here and go ahead and
Yeah.
talk about that.
Right. Well, you can go to www.themissingsecret.org,
Hmm.
themissingsecret.org. And I've got a 9-minute video that I did for you and your audience that explains the secret and the science behind it, shows the template, and and my suggestion is go watch that video. I I have a client of mine that just told me uh, the other day he's watched the video literally over 100 times, and it really succinctly explains the whole thing. And then you can also have the link to buy my book, although it's on Amazon. You can just go to Amazon, and the name of the book is The Missing Secret of the legendary book Think and Grow Rich. But
Perfect. Yeah.
and
Excellent.
you know, let me make a suggestion.
Yeah.
I think I was telling you this before we got on the air, and I've only been doing this for the past 2 or 3 months. When I go on a podcast, I'm like, if I'm going to spend an hour, I want the host, and by extension the audience, to have the same epiphany I had at 50. And so, are you up for that
Yes.
endeavor?
Yes, absolutely.
So, Daniel, think about this. In your life, how many epiphanies have you had where you learned something from somebody else and it changed your life?
Mm. I could probably count on one hand the
Right?
major ones that I remember.
Right. Yeah. In my life, I've had four of them. And obviously this was one of them, but, and also the biggest. Just sort of think through this. My epiphany was that obviously 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. So if my daily actions are determining my success, as I mentioned in my story, and 95% of them are unconscious, then I'm not controlling the very thing that determines my success.
Hmm.
And for me to have a higher level of success, I just have to gain control over those unconscious daily actions.
Yeah.
And the implication, obviously, is that your subconscious mind therefore controls your life. And so, my question to you would be, so do you believe that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious?
Yes. I absolutely
So,
do.
okay. So, what are you doing about it?
Nothing as intentional as it should be. I'm doing currently.
Right. Well, your answer is like almost what I get most of the time,
Yeah.
in that they believe it, but they don't really believe it, because if they really believed it, they would be doing something about it, because the implications are so profound. Again, that's what's determining your success. So of course, if you want to be more successful, you got to gain control of it. And so, but sometimes this is new information to people, that 95% of daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And I want to show you something with ChatGPT that
Yeah.
is totally cool. Watch this. See if we can pull her up here. She's being a little slow today.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that is. Well, I'll tell you. I mean, this is what would happen if we could get her to play. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Maybe our internet connection is low. I'd ask her, is that really true that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious, sort of with a
Mm.
disbelieving tone?
Yeah.
And she'll go, yes, the science today documents that that's true.
Mm.
And then I'll go, okay, let's go a little deeper on this. I understand that what's really happening is that people are taking the action unconsciously, but a couple of milliseconds later, they're becoming conscious of it. Is that really what's going on? Yes, that's what the science shows, yada, yada, yada. Then I'll get her to give me a couple of examples. But the power of that is then people have heard the third party verification that this, because you know how it is today, so many facts and figures are thrown around, you don't know what to believe, what not to believe.
Hmm.
And so, you know um, and so that's the way I sort of verify it.
Hey, Daniel Pope here. Real quick, I want to give you a huge thanks for listening. If you're enjoying it, I'd love it if you share with others. That's how I get the word out, by you sharing it with somebody that could really benefit from this. Now, I started this podcast to stand out above the noise, to give real growth tactics in a crazy world when others may give some misinformation or not cover everything you need to know. That's not my MO. My MO is being able to give back, being able to help others see what they actually need to do in order to grow. And that's why personally, my company, Be Known, we don't offer any courses or coaching programs. We're a done for you service provider because we know in this world, sometimes people just need a helping hand, a connected team, and an expert to be there every step of the way. So again, I really appreciate you listening, and talk to you soon.
So back to you, what is the impact on you of 95% of your daily thoughts and actions being unconscious?
The first answer that comes to mind is the business could be a lot bigger. And I know that I could be a better man and show up better for my business, for my relationship with friends and girlfriend, etc. So just, John, honestly, I think about it like this. It's a circle. And, I went to Unleash the Power Within, Tony Robbins' event
Right,
years
right,
back.
right.
And
Yeah,
we had us do the circle, and you rate areas in your life. And I think about what you're talking about, and the circle just expands, and it goes
right.
from atrophied, almost atrophied right here, to I could be, I don't think
You know,
better is the word, but yeah.
that's as good an answer as I've gotten to that question. Like, what's the implication
Hmm.
to your life? You get it. And one thing to sort of help the audience with this, I run into some people and they go, well, wait a minute. None of my actions are unconscious because I'm aware of everything I'm doing.
I'm in
I'm like,
control.
right, right. And I'm like, no, you're wrong, respectfully. I said, you think that none of your actions are unconscious because, yes, of course, we're all conscious of all the actions. It's just that we're becoming conscious of them after they happened. And so the actions are happening unconsciously without your control.
Hmm.
And to make matters worse, because we're wired for survival, your actions are driven primarily by being fear-based and reactive.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Mm.
And the other thing that I run into is some people go, well, I just need to make more of my actions conscious. No, if you're human, 95% of them are unconscious, 5% are conscious. You're not going to change that. And you're just taking control of the 95% that are unconscious. And so, like, let me ask you a question. So the way that you're doing life, tell me about your morning routine.
So morning routine normally is I wake up, I drink a full thing of water, a shaker cup of
Right.
water, and then I go take a shower and sit down and just really think about the day for a few minutes. It's not enough
Okay.
time, but then that little bug kicks in. It says, you should be working. Because
Right.
I work out of my second bedroom, my apartment. It's a full furnished office, but yeah, it's that call. So that is the morning routine of champions. No, I'm kidding. I know it's not good.
Well, and that's not unusual. I mean, that's not unusual. And so, let me ask you maybe a little more probing, deeper question.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, uh, how would you rate your career? Now, before you
Mm,
answer that, I already know you're successful. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Most people don't have a podcast. It's clear that you're successful. But relative to what you want to accomplish, scale of 1 to 10, where are you?
I'm a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that honesty.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's so much
uh,
more room to run. I know it.
well, right. And so scale of 1 to 10, you're in a relationship with a girlfriend, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Scale of 1 to 10, how good's that relationship?
Oh, I would say that's an 8 because
Okay.
I've done a lot of interviewing. So,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. I hear you.
I know what doesn't work for old Daniel
Yeah.
Pope.
Right. Right. Well, the starting point is you got to have a good mate.
Yeah.
But once you get a good mate, then are you being a good partner, and are you leading them to being a good partner?
Mm.
So relationships an 8. What about health?
Oh
Scale of
man,
1 to 10.
that's been a journey this year. I would say health wise, I'm a 7.
Okay.
It earlier this year it was closer to a 5, but
Right.
whew,
Right. And how old are you?
I'm 30. I turned 30 a few months ago. Yeah.
You are going to crush it in life.
Thanks, John.
You're way ahead of me. Way ahead of me. But here's the thing, Daniel, you have greatness in you. You really do. Yeah, and you see it. You feel it.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, most people would not be as vulnerable as you just were, and they wouldn't see the upside that they have. You see it. You're just not sure how to get there.
Yeah.
But it's just like me. I had greatness in me at 40, but why couldn't I get it out?
Yeah.
I'm making 200 grand a year, and but I felt that greatness in me. And the reality is, today you're playing the game of life down here. You're
Yeah.
playing at 5% of your potential, and just like I was. And then you learn how to do this, and you realize, oh, there's another level, and it's way up here. You're going from 5% of your potential to 100%, and then you're like, oh man, I see, this higher level that I didn't even really know existed, and I certainly didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's the epiphany that I want your audience to have. And as they put their head on the pillow tonight, you got to process this. I just did this with a podcast host about a week ago, and he was like, "Wow!" But he says, "I got to process this. I'm blown away," and I'm like, "I get that." It takes just a little processing.
Yeah.
Typically, people aren't going to go, oh my God, my life is totally changed. But they sort of feel like, as I think about this, I think my life will be totally changed.
Yeah.
Because I've never had anybody, first of all, talk bluntly to me like you are, and confront me about my morning routine, and confront me about my level of success. But your life is precious, and everybody's life is precious, and sometimes it takes somebody just to, I mean, people had to be, I had to be blunt with myself.
Yeah.
When I was 50. I'm like, John, you got to up your game.
Yeah.
Like Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says. And I remember when I was 50, I'm like, well, my record's telling me I'm a $200,000 a year entrepreneur. Like it, don't like it, but that's what you are. So you got to change.
Yeah.
So do you think the epiphany has now occurred with you?
Yes. There are thoughts in my head that I've been thinking about for a long time now of, man, why can't what is separating the good from the great?
Right.
And sometimes I feel like the business engine runs on fumes, or we get ahead and then something stalls it out, and it's almost like the fog of war. You don't really know what's ahead until you get through it. But yes, I very much subscribe to this.
Well, think about this. The differentiator between the mega successful and the moderately successful is control of self and focus.
Yeah.
Control of self and focus. Well, what is control of self? Well, your daily actions. Again, 95% of them are unconscious. So what is focus? Well, it's the focus of your thoughts. And exactly what this methodology does. And I think to wrap this part of it up in terms of the epiphany, I just like your audience to, when you put your head on the pillow tonight, just think about the profound ramifications of 95% of your daily thoughts and actions being unconscious. You can connect the dots, but just think about the implication in your life, just like I had you do, and be as honest with yourself as Daniel has been. And so the other thing I would also say to you, and you'll find this, I think, interesting. A few years ago, I decided I'm going to go show this to the top expert in the world on success, whoever he or she might be. And I think, did I tell the story at the event you were at?
Oh, I don't think so. Yeah, I want to hear this one.
Well, so I'm like, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life sharing this, I want to find the top expert in the world and show him or her what I created. Are there any flaws to it, or any anything similar to it? And so I decide that Darren Hardy's the top expert in the world on success.
Yeah.
So I write a big check. I take the ginge. We go out to La Jolla, California, and spend 3 days with him. And the moment comes to show him the template, and he's holding his hand, and I'm explaining how it works. And he goes, John, this is really good, but people aren't going to spend 12 minutes a day on this. And I'm like, Darren, how the heck can that be? At 25x my income, Time magazine did a cover story on the science behind it, and we're applying the central concept of the top book of the world on success. I mean, what do you mean they're not going to spend 12 minutes a day on this? He goes, John, the dirty little secret in the success business is that more success is merely a preference for the vast majority of people, for 98% of the people. And he says, this is only going to be done by the 2% that are really driven, where more success is a necessity, not merely a preference.
Yeah.
And of course, that changed and this was like 5 or 6 years ago, it changed me profoundly, because I thought, well, heck, this is for everybody. Everybody wants to be more successful. So, but the problem was I was so thick-headed that I'm thinking of the world strictly from my standpoint, I'm thinking everybody's a John Mitchell. And so what evolved with that was I thought, well, okay, go find the John Mitchells of the world, the people that are making 200, 300 grand a year that want to go to netting $1 million
Yeah.
and teach them the methodology. And so off I go and I find those people and to lure them in, I would give them a money back guarantee that if I couldn't double their income within a year, I give them their money back. And they had to be making a minimum of $200,000 a year because I wanted to make sure I'm playing with players. Typically I'd teach it to them over 6 to 8 weeks and I'd charge them $20,000. And if you play out the math over 3 years, it would produce a 35 to 40 to 1 return on their money spent. And I did that for a year and a half and documented it. It always worked. I mean, this is pure science. It can't not work. This doesn't work on some people and not others. If you do it, it friggin' works. And so then it evolved to where a very unleveraged way for me to share my methodology, and I evolved to then writing my book, and saw that was a better leveraged way to share it, and so, but it was so enlightening for Darren Hardy to wake me up to. It's for the 2%.
Yes. Well,
It's really for the 2% that want to play the game of life at their full potential, not necessarily their current income.
Yeah. I like that you said that, because you also mentioned something a second ago. It says not everybody is a John Mitchell. And far too often, I think in my head, I get it in my head that everybody's a Daniel Pope. And then I start to compare. And then I realize, John, when you were asking me how successful do I think my career is, when I answered a 4, that's a pretty low number. But when I start to compare myself to, even my peer group, my friend group, and my friend group is made up of people that aren't even entrepreneurs, that most of them aren't. And then I say, wait a second, why so low? By all accounts, very successful.
Yeah.
But success is also subjective too in that friend group. And so anyway, Johnny, my head is swirling with these thoughts of, but wait a second. Yeah, not everyone.
Well, yeah, and of course, the other side of the coin, you'll understand this better. But most people are created from the outside in, not the inside out.
Yeah.
Well, when you're created on the outside in, you're ruled by what other people think. Okay?
Yeah.
Whereas if you create yourself from the inside out, ultimately you don't care what people think. You really don't. And what matters is what you think. And it's just like in your case, sure, you're more successful than most of your friends. I was too. But that doesn't matter because they're not the standard. You're the standard. You're playing this game of life, this precious life you've been given. You're playing this game of life to your potential.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody's successful, but all I can control is me, and that's my standard. And one of the things I saw in my life was that at 50, and well, really after 50, I realized, you got to have something that gives you an edge in life, an advantage in life. And this 12-minute a day technique is the advantage, the edge. And that's what I tell my students and anybody that really does my methodology. This is the edge you got to have the exceptional life. If you don't have something that gives you an edge, you're likely to get the average life.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
And the other thing I want to make sure I say before I forget it, I created an AI algorithm that makes it super easy for people to apply my methodology to their life. All they got to do is answer about 50 questions, press a button, and 10 seconds later, the template is customized to their life. And the significance of that is that when I talk to people and I say, well, the secret of the top book of the world on success by a factor of 10 is create the succinct articulation of your desired life and feed it to yourself each day, they'll typically go, wow, that's a pretty good idea. I like that. And then they think a little deeper and they're like, well, what does he really mean by clarity with regards to the person I want to be, and clarity with regards to my business and my health? Well, I've been working on what clarity means in those areas for 20 years. So, you don't have to figure out what it is. Just answer the 50 questions.
Well, John, I know we're coming up on time here. I want to make sure that I'm respectful of that. There's so much more that I wanted to talk about, especially around you training the athletes in the University of Texas school system. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the University of Texas school system has won the Governor's Cup for, recently, if maybe even a few years in a row. Am I correct in that?
Well, we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
We've won in the NCAA, the Directors Cup goes to the top athletic
Directors Cup,
program
yeah.
in the country.
Yeah.
And we've won it for the last 5 years. And most people don't realize this, but the University of Texas is the biggest brand in college sports, bigger than Ohio State, Notre Dame in terms of revenues coming in. And so we're sort of at the top of the mountain, but I was telling the coaches, I did a presentation for them a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, there is no mountain. You think we're at the top of the mountain. There is no mountain. The mountain doesn't exist. All you can do is play the game of life at your full potential. And so let's be focused on what that means for each one of us. And so, but it's totally fun. Arch Manning was in my class. I just saw Arch yesterday.
Yeah.
And in fact, I got a bunch of my past students yesterday, and we went up to the football facility, and I brought a buddy of mine that's like 37 years old, and he played in the NFL. So we were giving him tips on how to get to the NFL and sort of help him understand the nuances of that.
Yeah. Well, what a treat this has been. And, I really enjoyed you sharing your story, the journey here. John, would you mind sharing again with the audience where they can find you and learn more about this and really help themselves?
Right. So again, the website is themissingsecret.org. And as we part here, let me share one final story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
And I think this will put it in perspective. So about 4 or 5 years ago, Ginger and I became grandparents for the first time. And so I coerced my stepdaughter to name the baby after Ginger. And so we go over to the house literally the day after she was born. And obviously there's a lot of oohing and awing of the baby. We're in the house. And for some reason, Daniel, they hand me the baby. And Ginger and Hannah walk away. So I'm holding baby Genevieve, 1 day old, to my chest. I feel the warmth of her body, and tears start streaming down my face because I realize how precious life is. And I'm like, she's going to live to be 100 years old, and the quality of her life and the impact she has on the world is going to come down to the thoughts that are going on in her head most of the time. Just think about that. The thoughts that are going on in your head most of the time are going to determine your success and your enjoyment in life. So I'm like, I am by God going to make sure that I show her how to influence those thoughts. And so the lesson for your audience, though, is your life is precious. Your life is precious. And, tonight when you put your head on the pillow, just think about the next 5 years. If the next 5 years are like the last 5 years, will you be happy with that? And if you're not, Stop winging life. You now understand a way to do life. And the beauty of this is you can create the life you want. There's a higher level, and it only takes 12 minutes a day.
Well, John, let's end it on that. I think that's
Okay.
perfect ending right there. So, listener, please do yourself a favor. Your future self will thank you. Check out what John has. Meditate on this. And John, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you, Daniel.
All right. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Okay.
Hey there, Daniel Pope here again. I want to take a couple seconds to talk about my company, Be Known. Now, Be Known exists to be a done-for-you service provider for online-based businesses, coaches, and those that sell online courses and information products. We help them grow from 6 figures to 7 figures and then into 8 figures. We do this because there's so much misinformation out there. So many people just selling a course or just a coaching program over how to grow. Well, we're different in the fact that we actually do it with our clients. We take care of the advertising. We take care of the email marketing, the tech, all the tech. Yes, all the tech, the landing pages, the funnels, the growth strategies and tactics. So I think of ourselves as a expert implementation team plus a fractional CMO per se that guides you every step of the way. So if you've listened to this podcast or an episode and said, okay, that's great, but I don't really know how to do that, or I just need help. Well, that's why we exist. So I want to invite you to a call with me, a consultation where we can talk through your business, talk through what's going on, what challenges you have, what constraints, what bottlenecks, and figure out a path forward. If we're a mutual fit to work together, great. If not, no problem. We'll send you on your way with resources and stuff that can help you get up to speed quick. So again, I invite you to talk more with me, and that is beknownonline.com. beknownonline.com/start is where you'll go. And I cannot wait to talk to you. Again, if you enjoyed this podcast, I'd love it if you can share with some friends. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to your success. Take care.